Welcome to Rooted Within with Lily and Dan, a podcast that shines a spotlight on positive change makers sharing their stories of legacy, inspiration, and impact.
Good afternoon, Lily.
Oh,
I'm stuck. I was about to jump in. I'm excited to be back in the studio.
So am I. Happy Eid.
Well,
even though I don't know when this is going to come out.
It'll be a little
happy
belated Eid. We had a break
belated.
for the Eid holiday, which I think was needed for
Did
many
you go
of
anywhere?
us. I didn't. I was here working on work and pictures.
Oh, well, I won't rub it in that I went home.
You went to
was
Australia.
Awesome. I went to Australia.
I'm so jealous. I've got so much to catch up on you about that.
I know. Well, we're going to count here. Lots to talk about.
I want to know how that trip was.
Yep.
But until then,
who do we have?
Another amazing guest in our studio. Welcome to Purva Grover.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Did he get it right?
Yeah.
Kind of, without the accent.
Yeah.
the dodgy Manchester accent
You
playing
got
in
it
again.
perfect, yeah.
There we go. Like Lily always takes a mick when I get people's names. Okay, it's like
it's simple pleasures.
I know. She
All right.
puts the pressure on you and
of
she
course.
just sits back.
Like I'm literally sweating here. I'm not sure it's because the AC is not working. Anyway, it's enough about us. Welcome. It's so good to have you in the studio.
Likewise, I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you have time for us.
Well, that's what I was going to say because you guys were having a chat before I entered,
I
and
got
it's
exhausted
like
just listening.
there is a lot going on.
I always have time for a good chat.
That's good though.
You know what? Take us. The one thing you didn't tell me about is your childhood. You grew up in India.
I grew up in India, that's correct.
Tell me a bit about that. Tell me a bit about growing up.
Oh, exciting, colorful, most wonderful childhood. I think we made so many memories, whether we were, picnicking in our little garden or in our balcony, whether we were visiting our grandparents in summer vacations. There was no concept of staycations back then.
Okay.
So yeah, visiting your grandparents was the thing you did whenever you were off from school. Cooking with mom, watching her do that, learning how to cycle with dad. I think loads of wonderful memories. I have an elder sister, so every day was a fun ride.
And whereabouts in India were you born and raised?
I am from New Delhi.
Ah.
Oh, wow,
I've been
hectic.
once. The place is crazy.
It is
Hectic.
crazy.
Like
It just keeps getting crazier.
Oh, I can imagine. It's just like I remember. It's just like this kind of like sensory overload the minute that you arrive. There's
It
just
is.
so much to take in.
It is. Yeah. But I was born in Chandigarh, so I was born in a smaller place, and then
Okay.
And
then you moved
But yeah,
over.
I've lived all my life in New Delhi, and now of course here in Dubai.
So you must have collected a lot of stories growing up.
Correct, loads.
And is that where your passion for sharing stories comes from?
I think so, yeah, because I had experienced so much, and so what I started doing was when I was really young. This is when I didn't even know how to spell correctly or didn't know my grammar or punctuation. I started writing in my diary, and I wrote in my diary for 17 years.
Every day.
Every day. And
Without fail.
without fail. And
Wow.
the embarrassing part, my parents still have those diaries. I just hope they never open them.
I was going to say, did they read them?
I hope so not. So when I didn't even know how to write, and I would write little things like, today I am happy because dad got me ice cream. Today I am sad because my best friend didn't come to school. And sometimes, or most of the times, I would spell those things incorrectly as well.
But you still
And I
write.
would just draw an ice cream in case I didn't know how to spell cream. So I did that, and I realized I love writing.
And do you think at that time it's really important to I guess like articulate and document those emotional feelings?
Yeah, I think I quite liked it. I think
Yeah.
it's very important, and that's why I encourage everyone to go in for journaling. I think it's just, back then when I was doing, there was no concept of journaling, but I think it's nice to sit down with yourself and just breathe and say, okay, this is how my day was, this is how I felt.
And what was it that you enjoyed most about the writing?
Just recording the experiences. And also as I grew up later, just reading what I had written, because sometimes
it would be
when I...
fascinating.
Oh my
to go
God,
back
it's
and read.
crazy. So I came across, I was in Delhi this May, and I came across one of my entries, and it said my ambition is to be an author.
No way.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I found that so cute.
How old were you for that entry?
Okay, from my handwriting, probably 8 or 9. So it was really sweet, and I was like, oh, so I actually clicked a picture of that little entry and I put it on my Instagram, and I was like patting myself, oh, good job, you knew what you wanted to do. Though honestly, I had no idea I wanted to do that. Maybe, when you are young, you have
Yeah.
a different ambition every day.
Yeah.
You want to do ballet one day.
Oh, I
and you
wanted
want
to be a florist.
Yeah, well, I wanted to be all kind of
Interesting.
weird things. Even till my college, I did my BCom honors. So I did my BCom honors, and then one fine day I was like, no, I don't want to do this. I want to study journalism, and I want to study English literature. So I did my master's. So I'm a double master's in mass communication and then master's in literature. So yeah.
But
I never
why
knew.
journalism? There's so
Again,
many other forms of comms that you could have done.
Correct, but I guess journalism keeps your life very exciting. It's much like what you guys are doing podcasting. You meet a new person
of
every
course.
day. You learn from someone every day. Your job is never boring.
True. There's always something different,
There's
a story
always
to tell.
something different.
So
Yeah.
what type of journalism was it?
So when I started, I was doing some kind of hard stories, but later I realized that what I enjoy more is soft features.
Yeah.
And I started with a lot of profile interviews again because I love meeting people and I like telling their stories. Then I started covering a lot of art and culture because I was involved in it. I would do theater and I would write poetry, and I was like, okay, this is something I like. And every time I would go and everybody had so much to say and there was just so much to learn. So I moved completely into art, culture, lifestyle, fashion. So purely soft features.
I was going to say, when you said the hard features, is that more like the investigative journalism, like the
I mean,
deeper, darker stories, I guess?
Deeper, darker stories, yeah. So I would cover like from blood donation camps to sometimes even crime.
Yeah.
But I did that for a very short while. And then I just moved to...
Was it? Sorry.
No,
so many questions, right?
I
Like, for
like
me, I was
this.
going to say, like, that must be quite emotionally draining and challenging to constantly be writing about things which essentially is like more the negative side of life.
It was. It would take a toll on you. And obviously I was much younger, and then you would sit back and you would take back all of it with you.
Yeah.
But then that comes with the job, and then you have mentors who tell you how not to do that.
How to
But
detach.
yeah, but then even when I moved to soft features, I wanted to still tell stories that, could make a difference. So say I would do a story on breast cancer survivors.
Okay.
And I would go meet them and have their conversation and, bring them to light and let other people read these stories. But not everybody is interested in lecturing or reading hard stories. But I was like, these stories need to be told. And what's a better way to tell them? Like, can I just, make it mellowed down and so that it reaches more hearts and more voices are heard? So I still continued with hard stories, but I kind of found it to tell it in the form of narrations.
What is one of the hardest hard stories you had to cover?
So this is when I was interning with a magazine in India. And embarrassing story, I walked out of the internship. So I was asked to cover a story of a breast cancer survivor. And then I was put in touch with someone who happened to be my lecturer's friend. And I went and I interviewed. Amazing story, beautiful, beautiful woman. And we had a very good chat. And I was really young. Like I said, I was interning. I came back, I filed everything, and I sent it to my teacher because I was like very happy because she put me in touch with someone so wonderful and so strong. It was supposed to be a cover story. And when the magazine came out, it was just like one page with one picture. So I walked up to my editor and I said, what happened? And my editor said, oh, she didn't look beautiful in the pictures. And it broke my heart. And I was angry, but I was too young to know if it's okay to be angry, in the editor's room.
Yeah.
So I called. So I said, but that is not the criteria, right? Beautiful or not beautiful. We are here to tell her story, her journey.
As a survivor.
As a survivor. And irrespective of how she looks, I mean, I just couldn't wrap my head around that something like that had been said to me.
Yeah.
I called my lecturer. I said, you know what? I think this is not for me. Is it okay if I embarrass you? And I just walk out of this. So she said, I'm so proud of you. Walk out of the internship. And I walked out.
Well, of course, because that leaves that kind of, I guess, like journalistic integrity.
Integrity, yeah.
And that's so important for journalism.
And even like humanity.
Yeah.
Like, how do you say something like that?
Well,
So someone who's gone through cancer.
but journalism's supposed to be non-biased.
It is
Like, that's
supposed
the
to
point.
be. That's the point. But look where we are today.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Which is very true, actually. Yeah, it's definitely not non-biased.
Journalism was always supposed to be not biased.
It's not
it was
supposed
there
to influence you.
No.
It's supposed to educate you and say,
and leave you to
they
decide.
leave you to decide.
But now it's skewing into the world
Everything's
of
skewed.
everything is there to influence a decision or to push an agenda,
Yeah.
essentially.
Correct. It's just changed so much. I've been a journalist for 18 years. And I have seen it, and I've worked across platforms, and I have seen it change.
I'm guessing you've also seen that change then from like print journalism into what we have right now, which is digital.
Which is digital,
And then you
yeah.
go into the world of like clickbait and everything else, from
Correct.
social platforms.
Yeah.
It's
Because we're
evolved
getting to a
significantly.
point where you can't even tell what fake news is anymore.
Well, that's
You
very
can't.
true.
You can't.
That's really scary.
It's a very scary world, yeah. It's also very scary to be a journalist now.
Yeah, I'm going to say, well, why is it so scary to be a journalist now?
Because look, unfortunately, look who you are competing with. I mean, we are competing with not only anyone and everyone who has a smartphone and hence has turned into a journalist,
Yeah.
but we are also competing with very limited attention spans.
Yeah.
So what happens is that one, if something reaches my WhatsApp or reaches my Instagram, I'm not even going to cross-check if it's correct. And before you know, it's gone viral, and it was like you said, it's fake news. So
And
yeah,
you've got a lot of impressionable minds out there.
correct.
Not everyone questions.
So, not everyone questions. So the responsibility is massive to kind of stick to what you want to, and then be okay with not doing clickbaity headlines.
Yeah.
But be happy with only 5 people reading, and just be happy with those 5 readers.
5
your
quality.
And with the
readers.
integrity and the
With- yeah.
authenticity of your content.
Yeah.
So your
Wow.
favorite soft feature that you've done?
My fear, so many. I love doing features around food, fashion.
Why so much food? Do you get to taste the food?
Yeah, I get to taste the
There we
food, but
go.
I just love food.
Okay.
Yeah, I get to taste the food, but I'm not a cook. So
Okay.
I have never done food reviews as such, because listen, if I don't, I get by. I'm a need-based cook, but I'm not going to go judge food which is made and say, oh my God, this was chewy, this was not.
Got you.
So I'm not doing that,
Yeah.
right? So I try to weave stories around food, or whether I'm covering fashion. So soft stories, favorite. Every time I think I've covered a theatrical production has been my favorite.
Ah. Any
Yeah.
favourite theatrical production?
I just saw one, so that's on the top of my mind. I just saw one 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
which is a Hindi Urdu production, and it's by these 2 actors from India, Bollywood, and they performed in Dubai, and it's called Ismat Apa Ke Naam. So there are 3 stories narrated, and there are 3
Wow.
players who are narrating the stories, and it was gorgeous.
Yeah. It must be incredible to be able to write about the arts.
It is.
Yeah, you get to go and
amazing.
see things, taste things, experience things.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lifestyle.
It is, yeah.
An incredible lifestyle.
But it's also the content's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Art and culture. You
So
can't.
half your job is done.
Yeah.
It doesn't get better than that. Can you imagine if you had to cover finance?
So, yeah. no disrespect to the finance people.
No disrespect to the finance. It makes the
We
world
would
go
definitely
round.
no attention span
But
for that
no,
one.
no,
From
just
my
a
side
second, that's
anyway.
it.
Numbers are important.
They are for somebody else.
Yes.
How did you end up in Dubai though? I mean, there must be a
So-
story to how you got here.
Oh, yeah, it's a story. So I ended up in Dubai when I got married.
Okay.
And so this was 10 years ago. And yeah, so my husband was living in Kuwait. He's born, brought up in Kuwait. He's an Indian.
Okay, I got to stop you there for a second. How does a woman living in India end up marrying a man in Kuwait?
Okay, so usually when we are asked that question, my husband and I take turns to narrate
Okay,
the story.
go on.
And I'll always tell him, today's your turn.
I was going to say, is it the same story?
It's the same
Okay,
story.
that's
Is it
all right
aligned?
then. Yeah.
It's a line. So I was in Kenya on a media trip, and I was with a senior journalist, and she said, are you dating? Are you seeing someone? I said, no. And she said, okay, I want to introduce you to someone, and I think you both will get along. I was like, okay. We went back to
That was
India.
easy.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, we went back to India. I thought she's going to forget about it. I thought I'm going to forget about it. And then she contacted me. She said, did you get in touch with him? I said, no. She's like, okay, here's his number. I said, but this is not an India number. Where does he live? She said, Kuwait. I said, so what's wrong with you? How is this ever going to work? She said, no, you have to speak to him. And then we spoke, and then we kept meeting. And yes, here we are today.
Fast
well
forward
done
10
to
years.
her.
Yeah. So the joke is that I had to cross continents to meet you. And
Yeah.
But that's the thing. So you did long distance for a while, or you sort
Yeah.
of back and forth, literally went back and forward?
so we did long distance for a bit, yeah.
Wow.
And then we are here today.
Yeah. And did you move to Kuwait or he moved to India?
No,
or?
here's the good story.
We both decided to move to Dubai.
Well, was Dubai on the agenda or?
I don't think it was back then, but yeah, when we started having a conversation, or where do we want to stay, and when we were, the wedding date was closer, and I said, okay, so we were both discussing, and we just wanted to do something that was both right, right for both, right?
Yeah.
He had never lived in India. Of course, he was visiting during summer vacations. I have never
So
lived in...
he'd never lived in India. So
He's never lived in India.
So he wasn't born in India.
No, in Kuwait.
Yeah,
So he was born and
Kuwait.
grew up in Kuwait.
Yeah, but he would go back obviously for summer breaks
Yeah.
and
So
so
see family and
and
stuff.
see family. So
Okay.
It's
he's
obviously different, isn't it? Because like the Middle East is your home. If you've been born
Yeah.
and raised here, it's different.
It's different. Yeah. So then we were like, okay. So then we're like, okay, why not move to Dubai? It's a new place. We'll both explore.
But why Dubai and not Qatar, for example, or Saudi, or
I guess purely because of the opportunities also, because he
Yeah.
had lived here for long enough, and he said, okay, in terms for growth, it would be nice. And in terms of the profession that I was in also, we were like, okay, it's English speaking and there
Yeah.
will be growth for both of us.
And when did you move here?
10 years ago,
Okay.
yes. So November 2012.
Yeah, so I'm guessing then, obviously, the media industry is really starting to take off then. Because there wasn't much of a media industry prior to...
2009, it was just
Yeah.
ITP.
Yeah,
Like, they were
correct.
the giants, I think. And
So
then
there
obviously
was,
things like
yeah.
the National started to come on board and
Correct,
there was
correct.
other publications.
So when I came here, I think there was quite a lot happening. But
Okay.
yes, of course, not quite a lot happening in terms of digital.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were still touching and
Print.
feeling the paper and
Yeah.
flipping through the real magazines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you miss that sometimes? Or do you
I
still get
miss
to
it.
feel the real
I'm
magazines?
very old school.
I miss the
Same,
smell.
I'm
yes.
so old
The smell
school.
of a
It's the smell of a
magazine
magazine is
Thank
really
you.
weird.
Thank you.
A brand new book.
My publishers had a very tough time convincing me to get my book on as an ebook because I was like, no,
It's not
let's
the
not do that.
same.
Paperback and hardback is good. But they were like, no, you'll reach a larger audience. But I said, yeah, but you can't put like a bookmark. You can't do
the
this. You can't,
same.
like you said, you can't smell a book. Yeah, so I'm
I
old school.
still don't have a Kindle.
No, I don't.
I have one,
I
but I
like
don't
print.
charge it often.
It's like
Still like
sat,
print.
sat there
But-
wasting
but,
battery.
but we're jumping ahead.
Yeah,
we're jumping
sorry, go on.
ahead. So you pack up your bags, you decide both of you are going to sacrifice being away from what you know and
Yeah.
land in Dubai.
Correct.
What was that like?
Beautiful. I think we were just exploring so many things
Yeah.
together, setting up a home, and yeah, it's been nice.
So you arrived without having a job.
So when I arrived, I was freelancing for a couple of magazines, and I had done my homework, and I was already freelancing for a couple of magazines in Kuwait and in Saudi and in Dubai. So I came with freelancing assignments, but yeah, I didn't have a full-time job.
Daunting?
Yeah, quite. When you've worked all your life and then you land in a new country and you're like, oh my God, I have to update my CV again. Nobody
Yeah.
knows me here.
And restart again.
Yeah,
you know.
how does that work? So it
That's
was-
quite a lot.
But you didn't stick to freelancing for long, did you?
No, I didn't.
All right.
I didn't.
No rest for the wicked here.
Of course.
Go on,
So what
share
do you
with
jump
us.
into?
So yes, so I was looking for a job, and I was like, okay, meanwhile I find something which is something that I'm going to like doing. Why not launch my own magazine? When I
Just
land-
like you do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just
Got
so
nothing.
we're
Got
just-
nothing else to do, so I'm just going to launch a publication.
I don't like the content.
Correct.
Don't like what they're doing. Yep.
Just going to do myself.
I don't want to wait. Basically, it was like I don't want to wait.
But
And
that's
like,
very much the Dubai kind of, or the UAE mindset, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah.
well, this is what I want to do. I'm not going to wait for anyone. I don't like it, so I'm going to do my own.
But it's the beauty of the region, isn't
Of
it? It's the beauty of
course.
Dubai that,
Right.
unlike other places, you feel like you can.
Yeah, and you have the opportunities to.
Do you know what I mean?
yeah, you have an idea, you just go
You
ahead
can
and
make
explore
it.
it.
It's a great entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
That's what I've always loved about Dubai. The word impossible doesn't really exist here.
Not at all. It's not even in
No.
the dictionary.
It doesn't.
That's
Yeah.
what drew me here. So
Yeah.
So,
I understand that.
so how do you launch a magazine?
Okay, so I was like, okay, my magazine is called The Indian Trumpet, and it's a magazine for Indian expats, and it's a magazine that
Because
celebrates.
there wasn't any, right?
Yeah, there wasn't any.
Nothing focused on
Really?
that. Can you believe that?
There's such a
I want
huge
to
demo-
rewind for a second.
Sure.
Because that's a huge demographic of the population here.
But that's exactly what happened. It's like sitting there going, hold on, I'm going to let you tell your story.
So I was like, okay, this is little India. Everybody's speaking the
Yeah.
language. Everybody loves
What's the
Indian
population?
food. I think 2 million. Latest says 2 million plus.
Yeah.
And I was like, we are 2 million Indians here in the UAE. And kind of every publication and every business was catering a lot to the Indians, even the big ones. But there was nothing that was screaming out, hey, this is for you.
Dedicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, let me do that. And I was a new Indian expat married to an NRI, and I was like, okay, I want to explore this, but I didn't want to do it, the regular way. So I said, okay, I want to capture
Sorry, NRI?
the non-resident Indian.
There
Got
we
you.
go.
Yeah.
Sorry, we've got to get in with
Yeah.
the lingo.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, let me create a product which captures the color, culture, and chaos of India. And I'm going to do it on the basis of, like we started earlier, on all the memories I have made, or perhaps the things that I miss, or the conversations that when I sit here in Dubai with my friends who are Indian expats, what are they talking about? What are
Yeah.
they craving? What are they missing? So, yeah, that's how the magazine happened. I just put a post out there on social media. Back then, Facebook was the thing.
Yeah.
So I just put it out there. I said, I'm here and I want to do something. And I started by asking my, fellow journalists back home if anybody is keen to contribute, because obviously I didn't have money at that point. So I said, is there anyone willing to contribute? And we are going to do everything with the twist. So everything is going to be really quirky. So I got, fortunately, a lot of people said,
Define quirky.
So quirky would mean that all our editions are a celebration, like I said. So it's a celebration of the color, culture and chaos. So we would pick up any topic like Indian pickles and we'd create an entire edition around pickles and chutneys. We will pick a topic like Indian toilet also. We've done an edition on Indian toilet.
Okay.
We'll do that. Indian mother.
An entire edition.
On toilet. Yeah. And we got advertisements.
Wow.
Then we
interesting subject matter.
Yeah.
So we did something on, say, Indian childhood games.
Yeah.
Indian tea. So everything was like very thematic. Indian chai.
Yeah, but you're looking at obviously like India as a demographic, as a country, is so culturally diverse.
Correct.
So there is no shortage of content.
Correct.
Wow.
There's no shortage of content.
It
Yeah.
must be incredible to bring that to life.
Yes.
You
and
must have learned a lot as well, obviously,
lot.
of your own country.
Yeah, because we had, when we started, so when we were talking about the cinema in India, and I was very surprised because a lot of non-Indians said, we want to write about it. So I was like, okay, let's see how that works. So I have grown up watching a certain legendary actor, right? So I have a certain perspective as an Indian, I've grown it up. But here was someone who was sitting in the UK and said, I want to write. And I'm like, okay, how do you watch those movies? With subtitles. I'm a huge fan of Indian movies and I want to write a Bollywood script.
I grew up watching Bollywood.
Oh, see?
I grew up watching Bollywood.
I want you to contribute now.
I'll happily contribute. Like,
But it'd be really interesting, that non-Indian perspective.
yeah, because like I had, so I don't know why my parents were okay with us watching horror movies. My uncles used to
They
bring
had
horror
subtitles,
movies
it's
when we were
fine.
in and after a point, I just didn't want to watch it anymore.
Okay.
So I would sit in the other room because we had two TVs, and I would sit there watching Bollywood while
Wow.
my brothers and the rest of them were watching horror movies. And I grew up a little bit more sane than the rest of them. It was just, it was
Yay,
better
Bollywood.
content to consume. Oh, I love
Wow.
them. I could probably, I wouldn't know the names of the famous actors, but I could pick them. So when I see it, I'm like, oh, I remember that guy.
Oh,
I remember her."
wonderful. Yeah.
What were some of the most memorable contributions to the magazine?
Oh, so this is one, like someone who used to write the Bollywood columns for us. And I believe she's writing her first Bollywood script now.
No way she
Really?
did it.
Yeah.
Indian or international?
International.
Wow,
yeah,
that's
so
incredible.
that's how obsessed she was with Indian cinema,
Yeah.
and she is with
Wow.
Indian
So
cinema.
that's someone who's not necessarily from that culture and starts to write about that
But
subculture.
someone, so the idea of launching the magazine was that you could be an Indian, but you could also be curious about what makes India.
It's an opportunity to discover.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
your first edition, what was the theme?
No, so the first edition was just a debut edition, yeah.
okay.
And then from second edition, we went thematic from a festival edition to...
So how were you feeling? So it's digital, right?
Yeah, it's digital.
How were you feeling bore you went
Launch.
press the button launch?
Oh, very scared. I still feel scared.
Really?
Yeah, I think you are, I always tell everyone that it takes a lot of courage to put your words out there.
Oh yeah.
And irrespective of the number of years you have written or you've done that, but it takes courage because everybody has an opinion. That's
Especially
why-
these days.
Especially these
Yeah.
days. And it's easy to get overwhelmed these days, whether it's from praise or whether it's from criticism, even if it's
Everyone's a
constructive.
critic, right?
Everyone's
It's
a
like,
critic.
there's so many people who are like keyboard warriors.
Oh,
they can
huge,
voice
yeah.
an opinion online, or they can comment or
Correct.
dislike, or
And
diss
yet
or
they're
whatever.
not doing anything themselves.
Well, exactly. Well, there you go. They've not really put themselves above the
You
firing
must
line
have
to
been
do it.
so excited.
Oh, excited, yeah. Very excited.
So how long did it take you to put together your first edition?
So I had come here, I think, 7 months. Yeah, so my first edition was out in July 2013.
What type of resources do you need to put a magazine together? Because I'm assuming it's a lot in terms of art direction, creative
Yeah,
content,
correct.
branding.
Lots of things. So initially, I was doing most of it by myself.
That was my next question. Was like, who did
Yeah.
all of that?
No, so I did most of it by myself because I was just using the money that I was making from my freelancing into
To
this
put into
passion project. So I was the coffee girl, I was the Xerox girl, I was also the salesperson, I was also the one who was marketing and editing. But yes, I did have help when it came to design. And
Yeah.
also I was blessed because I had wonderful contributors from all over the globe. But yes, I would say I was doing most of the work. And also because I'm OCD and I didn't know it's easy to, it's okay to let go and let other people
Delegate.
take charge, delegate.
Yeah.
So you need resources, but because we were digital, so I think that kind of helped. And like you said earlier, it was so much learning. I didn't know what is GoDaddy.com. So I had to go on YouTube
Of course,
or this thing.
all the setup and everything.
Because I didn't know the HTML coding.
Yeah.
How do you create a website?
Yeah.
Okay, now that I have a magazine, of course I had created magazines all my life. But I didn't know how do you upload one now?
Yeah.
How do you get the subscribers? How do you get a pop-up on your website?
Yeah.
So those were a lot of challenges. While I knew how to write, I knew how to edit and design.
But it's the back end.
But it's the back end which was probably the most daunting, and it continues to be. Yeah.
How long was the magazine going for?
So
Is it still going?
It is still going. So I had to put it on hold for a bit, for around 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
But
and
it'd been going for about 7 years before
Yes,
you did that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So now I have brought it back, in fact, incidentally, only this month. And we had a tiny nap because I got occupied with writing books and nurturing stories elsewhere. So I was not being able to give enough time to this. And
Yeah.
I was very sure that, I want to put out only quality content there, and I want to make sure that it's worth everybody's time, because there is so much content out there.
Yeah.
So is it a profitable magazine?
I hope so. It starts making profit again soon. But yes, it was. Yeah.
Brilliant.
I was able to pay the bills.
That's amazing.
That's incredible, because obviously, the media industry in general, it can suffer quite heavily. Just like you said, there's so much content now.
Saturated.
It's so saturated.
Saturated, yeah.
It's really hard to get, I guess, sponsors, advertisers,
It is.
people that want to be part of it. And I guess the manpower and the effort just to create the content is significant.
So were you able to pull data? Were you able to see how many numbers of subscribers?
We were. So initially it was a subscription-based model where I was charging per subscriber to come on it. But then, through subscriptions, you don't really make a lot of money, because how much can you charge?
Exactly.
And I think every product relies on the readers or
Yeah.
listeners in this case. So I didn't want to, put the pressure on them. I knew that by word of mouth, the magazine will reach where it is supposed to reach. So I made it like a free to read, and I wanted it just to, touch more people. So then most of the money was coming through the advertisers. But yeah, we did, in the initial few months, we did get like close to 17,000 subscribers.
Wow.
Only in Dubai. And then we got picked up from London School of Journalism as part of their course on how to create digital magazines.
way.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
So
How did that happen?
I have no idea. Somebody was doing their PhD, and they mentioned this as part of what they wanted to study. And then we just got an email, and I thought it's scam. And they're like, okay, we want to add this. So I was like, okay, but I don't know what I can teach you here. But so they just studied it, and they did the work.
Hold
So
on.
I have no idea.
Was that a pinch me moment?
It was. It still is.
Incredible one.
It still
Like,
is.
wow.
Yeah.
Were you sort of rereading the email and go,
Yeah, I was. I was like, no, this can't be true. I have to read it again.
fake news, fake news?
Scam, no, but it wasn't. And I have no idea who that student was. If the student is listening to us today, can you please contact me? I
Yeah.
want to say a big thank you. So I guess it spread more by word of mouth.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So at what point did you have this calling to start writing your own stories?
I guess if I was to put a timeline, it was somewhere in 2017. So there is this thing called the NaNoWriMo Challenge. It's the National Novel Writing Month, and it happens in November every year. That's the month when writers all over the globe, you don't have to know each other, it's a digital movement kind of thing, you commit to writing 50,000 words in 1 month. And it's not like you stop the rest of your life. You just commit, like on day 1, 1st November, you have an empty sheet, 0, and then you commit to write 50,000 words. So I read about this challenge, and I was like, okay, I want to do this challenge because I haven't written for myself for very long, and I don't know if I can write anything else other than reports and features and magazine stuff that I was doing. I took up the challenge.
50,000 words.
Yes,
Because you really didn't have enough on your plate.
I did. But this was like, okay, I want to do this for myself. And also it's a beautiful community. So when you go on the website, you realize you can have a writer buddy. So for instance, I'm writing and I've realized, so it's like you have to write close to 1,600 words every day. So if one day you don't write, you are back. And 1,600, sounds very little. every day.
But no, 1,600
But it's
every
not.
day is
It's not.
is a lot.
And also this you have to do with your regular job. So
Yeah.
if you fall sick or if you have guests over or something happens, you still have
and it's
to
got to
write.
be 1,600 quality words.
Quality words. So then I was like, okay, I want to do this. And then I went into this community, and it was very nice because, you could go in the middle of the night and you could find support. So someone would be like, oh my God, I'm, 3,300 words behind my target. And I would be like, oh, me too. And then you would find support with, from
So
each other.
What is this called again?
National Novel Writing Month. So the group is
National
called
Novel-
NaNoWriMo.
I like it.
So I did that, and that's how my first book was born. And since then, I have done the NaNoWriMo for six years.
That's
Every year.
incredible.
That's
because
really
it's
cool.
an addiction.
But hold on. Back we go. Back we go.
Yeah,
1st of November, you blank page.
blank page.
What came up? How did it come up?
So-
did you know what you were going to write?
No, I didn't know what I was
Talk me
gonna
through
write. Yeah, so I was like, okay, I knew that I want to write a story. I didn't know where to start. I kind of knew that I want to write a short story because I didn't know if I could sustain 50,000, like if I could write a novel. I still don't know if I can write a novel. I've never written a novel. I was like, I know I can write short stories because that seems a little reasonable to me, and it's like a tick mark done. Oh, one story done. So no, I had absolutely no idea. I just picked one memory from my growing up years in India, and it
What
led
was the
to
memory?
11 stories. So I just took a memory of a mango tree, which was in my grandparents' home, and how that was one thing we really looked forward to, whether it was eating mangoes from the tree or whether it was playing around the tree. I just started from there, and then it led to 11 stories, and the book is called The Trees Told Me So, because I felt the trees were telling
Telling
me
you
these
stories.
So the protagonist in the book, in all the 11 stories, is a tree in some way or the other. So someone who spent their life under a tree is talking to you, or someone who's who's probably spent some years around the tree is talking to you, or sometimes the tree is talking to you.
But you said you mentioned to me that it was a bit of a tearjerker. It was there were some stories in
Yeah.
there that were quite emotional.
Yes.
Can you share one?
So there are quite a few which would make you cry. So there is one which I just mentioned, which is called a summer ritual, and it's basically about how you spend your time. It basically is a summary of what it means to be a family. So that's kind of a tearjerker. The other one, which is very, very hard hitting, because I feel I'm blessed, and I feel that I can use words to make my tiny little difference out there. So every time I write something, I try to put in a little message there, which is not just in your face like that, but it kind of stays with you. So there's one story there which is called Between Us, Mother and Daughter. And that's a story about an 8-year-old girl who is gang raped under a tree.
Whoa.
And
That's a deep story.
that's a deep story, and that came because I don't know if you are familiar with the Nirbhaya rape case that
The girl
happened.
at the back of the bus.
Yes.
Oh, that was horrific.
That was horrific. So when I read about it, and when we all read about it, still gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
So that it kind of stayed with me, and I wanted to write. I think I was just writing it for myself.
As a woman.
Yeah, as a woman, I wanted the words to go out there. So I wrote that story, and that is definitely the most hard-hitting. And what we did later in the last couple of years, I converted that story into a short play. And we have performed that play in India, in Sharjah, in Dubai. And of course, there's a warning that goes that if you're sensitive, you don't want to. But I wanted young girls, young boys, young minds essentially to know that, you need to know that this could happen to you and how to protect yourself. So we have performed it at many places.
How was it received?
Oh, it was received very well. There has been quiet after the play has ended.
Yeah, it'd be dead silence.
It'd be dead silence. But we have won awards for best writing, best direction, best actor. And we've kind of made a difference because I think at the end of few shows, there have been dads who've come and walked up to me and said, oh, can I just hug you? Thank you because I would have never known how to have this conversation with my daughter.
It'd be impossible.
Thank you for doing that for me.
Yeah.
So for me, writing books and doing this is my biggest reward. I do not want million readers. I want that one person to come and
That
tell
you
me.
changed
Yeah.
their life.
Yeah.
And to make a difference through
make a
the
difference.
words that you're creating.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was that. I still remember
Yeah.
that story. Like
Yeah.
it really hit.
It hit.
It hit all around the world. It really hit.
Yeah.
Correct.
So it's nice. It's not nice, but it's great.
To
Not
put
the
it
right word. Not there's no positive word.
There
but
is
it's
no
a
positive
word.
word.
But the fact that you were able to tackle it,
Yeah.
and you gave voice to that
Yeah.
girl.
Yeah.
You know, a
Yeah.
voice that she wasn't able to have.
Right.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So how do you go from doing 50,000 words in a month to deciding that you're going to try and get published?
Oh, tough one.
Yeah.
You just go on Google and you say how to send a manuscript for publishing.
But what made
Really?
you?
Is that literally what happened?
But what
Wow.
made you decide to take that step? Because it started off with being a journey for yourself.
Yeah. But I guess that no story is good if it just sits on your desktop.
True.
Yeah. It needs to have life.
Yeah, it's just so I wanted to just send that story out there. And I was like, okay, now that it's out there and I'm kind of happy about how it's shaped out. And let's just look for a publisher.
Yeah.
Googled,
Googled. That's where it starts.
and then
And then it's a long journey because you keep Googling. Then you realize that every publisher wants the manuscript to be sent to you in a certain format. So you shift from one font to another. You go from Times New Roman to Arial to
Yeah.
12 to single spacing and double spacing to one chapter to synopsis to market analysis. And you have absolutely no idea how to do
but
any
they were
of that.
open to receive from you.
So it's like you send in a whole lot of emails and then you hope that someone just opens that email, because just like every other industry out there, mostly in the books industry as well, in the publishing, a lot of things work through literary agents.
Yeah.
So they are more likely to open emails if you have an agent,
Yeah, 'cause they
and
know
they're
them.
most likely to just hit delete.
But you
Yeah.
didn't have an agent.
I didn't have an agent, so
So-
I think I was very stubborn, and I was like, okay, I'm going to keep sending this till I get a reply. And yes, I got a reply.
I was going to say, did anyone open the email and you got that reply?
Yes, I
Wow.
did.
Well, how many emails did you send before you got a reply?
It's strange, but I remember the count. I think close to 218.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
That is
and
stubborn.
Yeah, of course, it's like relentless. I'm not going to let this.
yeah, and
you
I
know,
had a
go
proper
unanswered.
Excel sheet, which would be
You're
like,
tracking
oh,
every one of
I was
them.
tracking. I was like,
I
oh,
don't
this
actually,
one is
I don't
going.
think stubborn's the right word. I think-
Methodical.
Huh?
Methodical.
Well, just resilient.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, resilient.
You know, it's grit.
Yeah,
It's like the no wall's going to get in the way of where I want to go.
yeah.
I think stubborn's the wrong word for
Yeah.
it.
And then you finally got published.
Finally got published.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Take me back. They opened the email.
Yeah,
Someone
so
responded.
Someone responded, and
You're like
so,
going past all these amazing
Sorry.
moments. Come back.
So yeah, I got a response from close to 2-3 publishers, and I think the first reply makes a huge difference, because when you are tying up with a publisher who is putting in faith in you, money in you,
Yeah.
so you want them to understand why you've written what you have
Yeah.
written. So so this one publisher, when I got a reply, I think they absolutely understood why I had written those, and I didn't even read the contract or anything. I was like, okay, I want to go ahead with them.
So
Of
you
course I
sent,
was
so
thrilled.
you had to when you sent out your email, you sent it with your manuscript.
You send it with sample chapters and a synopsis and sometimes a market analysis to help them understand why your book is important, or in the sense why nothing like that exists, or the comparative titles. And so if they like the sample chapters and if they like what you sent in your first email, they ask you for the complete manuscript, and then they decide if they want to.
So they read. 3 of them came back and said, "Send us your manuscript."
Yeah, and I send it, and yes, so my
And all 3 came back and said, "We're interested." Or
yes, they did. Yeah.
How was that moment?
Oh, it was so good. I still remember that moment.
What
So-
How'd you celebrate? What'd you do?
I don't remember how I celebrated. I think it's just been a celebration ever since then. I just feel happy. I mean, there are obviously lows and downs in any journey, but like someone once told me when I was feeling a little down, oh my God, this is not working. They said, how many people want to open a restaurant or want to open a coffee shop or want to write a book? You've done one of those things,
Yeah.
and your book is there now on Amazon. So just always remember that. So I think that feeling. I remember getting that email, and I remember I was having lunch and I was in office and I was like, okay, blink, blink, this is for real, it's come. So yeah.
Wow.
Did you have to rewrite a lot of it, or
No.
they were quite happy? Because a lot of times publishers.
No, I guess they allow
Constant.
you to have that your voice because it's your story, and also because I've been writing and editing. So I kind of have that faith that what I'm sending is good. And of course, but you always want someone else to look at your work because you're too close to it. After a while, you forget how to spell the, and you're like, oh, is it this? Because you've just seen it so many
Yeah.
times, and you probably don't like it, or you probably think, oh, this is really important for my reader. In your head, it's important, but when you're reading it, it's not
No.
that important.
Did you have your husband read them?
Yes, of course. He is compelled to read everything I write.
Mandatory every day.
That's part of the job.
Yeah. Nice.
And what did he think of your manuscript?
He loved it. Yeah. Yeah, but he's not, we are in two absolutely different fields. So let's just say he's not very good with words, and he just said nice. And I looked at him, and I've written this in all my books, acknowledgement. And I told him, I just gave you 50,000 words and you're saying nice. But he's getting better.
He's getting better. Now we got 2 words.
So what's next?
What's next? My 4th book should be out
Okay.
sometime this year.
Yeah.
So
Are you still writing it, or is that all finished now?
It's all
or-
finished.
Wow.
I'm editing it right now.
Are we allowed to know what it's
Yes,
about?
definitely. So this book is going to be a shorter title in comparison in terms of word count from my other books. It's going to be called #I could have been an Insta post.
No way.
Interesting.
I like that.
Context.
So basically, I realized, especially during the pandemic, that I wrote a book during the pandemic as well, which is called It Was the Year 2020. And it's an ebook which I wrote because there was no publishing happening that time.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sense of what was happening around me. And I just put it out there. And it was during the same time when I started writing about a lot of dark moments.
Yeah.
Not necessarily negative, toxic, but a lot of dark moments and a lot of emotions that we all go through. And we go through it all the time. It's not just during the pandemic. We
It
live
was just
through it.
amplified during that
Yeah,
time.
and I realized that Instagram was always about the pretty moments, and I could not wrap my head around that. And even when I came on Instagram, and I would always tell my publisher, but I don't have pretty pictures to put. Like, I don't eat avocado toast every day. I don't go to Maldives every Eid break. What am I going to put there?
Yeah.
So I could just put words, right? I probably burn my toast twice a week.
Yeah.
So when I started writing about these things, and I started writing about the not so pretty moments, I would get a lot of response from people, but I would never get it on the, like the timeline. It would always slide in through the direct messages. And someone would just stranger would message saying, oh, thank you for saying that today. I really needed to hear that. I realized that there were a lot of people who wanted to express that. So why not write something for them? Why not write
Yeah.
about those moments when you feel weak, when you feel sad, when you feel like crying? Why not write that? So I was like, okay, so these are going to be little shots or snippets, as you could say,
Yeah.
that all these could have also been Insta posts.
Yeah. And the alternative.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, the
I'm
real
excited.
stuff.
The real
yeah,
stuff.
the genuine stuff, which is not
genuine
curated online.
Yeah, because not every day is
So
pink
when
and
can we
purple.
expect this?
End of the year, I think so.
End of the
Excited.
year.
Yeah, I'm
There
excited.
you go. Let's tune in.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. It was an
you.
incredible conversation.
Lovely.
Yeah,
I've had a
loved
blast.
the journey and very looking
you.
forward to the books and more. I'm sure
So-
there'll be much more in the
So
future.
just for our viewers out there, jump on Amazon to find your books.
Yes, jump on Amazon.
Jump on
Or
Amazon.
come on my website.
Yeah.
You'll find it there as
we
well.
should put the details on socials.
Yeah, we'll put the
Thank
details
you.
on
There
social.
we go.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much for joining us.
Thank
Very
you.
inspiring.
This was wonderful.
Welcome to Rooted Within with Lily and Dan, a podcast that shines a spotlight on positive change makers sharing their stories of legacy, inspiration, and impact.